speaking, I guess mute, because we reduce the amount of interference on the lines.
You all set? Yes. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is John Pavicic. I'm Executive Director of the Central Pine Barrens Commission. I will be serving as moderator for today's September 16th, 2020 Commission meeting. For the record, a quorum is present, and I would like to review a few guidelines before we begin. Notice of the meeting followed the New York State Open Meetings Law as amended by Governor's Executive Order 202.1, and as extended through October 2020, which allows these meetings to take place telephonically or through similar technology. Today's Commission meeting will begin with the reading of public comments on matters other than the Joseph F. Gaza hearing, approval of minutes, and the conducting of general business. This will continue until approximately 2:30 p.m. to 2:45 p.m., at which time preparations for the Gaza public hearing will commence, with the public hearing beginning at 3 o'clock. The hearing will include presentations on the project and a public comment period. After the public hearing has concluded, any remaining Commission business that needs to be conducted will be addressed, including the reading of any additional public comments, and then the meeting will be adjourned. An executive session will be held at the end of the meeting to discuss a number of legal matters, including enforcement and compliance. In regard to the Joseph F. Gaza public hearing, members of the public, meeting participants, and Commission members should please ensure that you are clearly identified by your first and last name in Zoom. If you are not, you can right-click on your name and rename yourself, or send a chat to the Commission with your name and we will update your contact information. This is critically important to help ensure that the comment period goes smoothly and that we can clearly identify you during the public comment period. In regard to public participation, please note that members of the public may listen to and view the meeting. There are two opportunities to provide public comment today on matters other than the Gaza hearing. The first opportunity will consist of emails that were submitted by 12 noon today, prior to the meeting. These will be read aloud by me during the first public comment portion of the meeting. The second will be after the Joseph Gaza hearing, during which the meeting attendees can make in-person audio-visual comments in regard to the project. If you wish to submit closing comments on matters other than Joseph Gaza, please do so via email to info@pb.state.ny.us before the end of the meeting. Again, please note that the opening and closing public comment section is reserved for non-Joseph Gaza project comments. Comments on the Gaza project must be reserved for the hearing. Public hearing comments. Members of the public who expressed interest in speaking at today's meeting will be welcome to provide comment in the order in which their email reservation was received. At this point, we have not received any emails from folks who have asked to speak expressly on this. And those comments should be directed to the Commission members. We will make an inquiry during the hearing as to whether or not there are any additional members of the public who are present who have not commented and wish to comment. And please indicate your interest by clicking on the raising your hand icon in the Zoom chat participant window. As the final component of the public comment period, each person who is called in on the phone lines and has not spoken will be asked if they would like to provide comment to ensure they too have the opportunity to speak. Unless you are providing verbal comment, at the moment your audio will be muted and video feeds disabled for the entirety of the meeting. The public may submit written comments via email or mail regarding the Joseph F. Gaza project for up to 5 business days following the close of the hearing. In regard to Commission member voting, voting on actions and resolutions will be done via a roll call unless there's a unanimous vote. All Commission members are asked to please clearly state their name when making a motion and clearly state their vote when their name is called. When not speaking, Commission members are asked to please mute their microphones to limit background noise and prevent inadvertent disruptions. And in regard to recording and meeting minutes, this meeting is being recorded in the Zoom application and will be posted on the Commission's website for viewing and listening after the meeting. Meeting minutes will also be prepared as is normal practice. And then finally, I will now turn the meeting back over to Carrie Meek Gallagher, the chairwoman of the commission, to call the meeting to order.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get our meeting for the day started. We do have a lot to get through again before we need to take a break to get ready for the public hearing. So we'll try to move things along. I do know, John, we have several public comments you received that you'd like to read into the record, correct?
That is correct. We've received about a half dozen comments. All of the public comments received prior to 12 noon today were in regard to the Hills project. The first comment was from Bill Kearns. His comment states, Commissioners and staff, good afternoon. I am perplexed by the fact that the Hills PRD hearing now seems to have been reopened. As per the PVC website, the developer now has the option to introduce more material via modifications to the already reviewed plan, as well as request an extension. When does this end? After extensive hearings, I was under the impression that the plan as submitted was the final one. Now the developer has been given another pass to reconfigure the plan, since it probably does not pass muster relative to the laws overseeing development in the Pine Barrens. They were quite emphatic at the final public hearing that the plan as presented met all guidelines. Are the developers now saying it doesn't and they need another turn at bat? Modifying their final plan after intense review by your staff calls for the plan to be denied by the commission. The developer presented a modified plan at Wednesday's hearing without prior review by the public, and the ability to question it at the meeting, albeit via Zoom, is problematic. Please remember your mission to protect the Pine Barrens and the water beneath it. If after all this time modifications to the plan and an extension are needed, I remain steadfast in my conviction that this development has no business being built. With regards, William R. Kearns. The next set of comments came from Bob DeLuca of the Group for the East End. And in his letter he states, Dear Ms. Gallagher, on behalf of the Group for the East End, we find that the record for the Lewis Road PRD contains more than sufficient evidence to support a denial of the application because it cannot meet the standards, guidelines, and requirements of the Pine Barrens Protection and State Environmental Quality Review Acts. We are also writing to express our deep concern regarding the review process that has unfolded since the final public hearing on the Lewis Road PRD was held on August 19, 2020, and formally closed on August 26, 2020. As the Commission is well aware, the Lewis Road proposal has been under intensive review for at least 9 months, during which time the Commission received substantial public and expert testimony, entertained major application changes, and received significant input from Commission staff. Based on the record, the final application and all public hearing comments for the Lewis Road project was completed on August 26, 2020. The Commission was then scheduled to meet for an extended deliberation on all outstanding matters on September 11, 2020, and a decision was due to be made on the project on September 16, 2020. Unfortunately, since August 26, 2020, the review process has been significantly altered. Without explanation, a critically important Commission meeting designed to fully discuss the current application and relevant comments was canceled, and the review of a new development proposal is now apparently being substituted in its place. Our concerns about this meeting cancellation were compounded after I contacted the Commission's office in the hopes of meeting with staff to discuss the matter, only to be informed that such a discussion would be outside the record and could not take place. I cannot recall such a policy ever being previously applied by Commission staff. More importantly, and in light of this policy, it is hard to fathom how the applicant or its agent could have secured the cancellation of the September 11, 2020 meeting or received staff guidance that they could resubmit a new development plan in the absence of a contact that would have clearly been outside the record. It is hard to miss the advantage of this double standard provided to the applicant. In addition to rewriting the established terms of review, the applicant also avoided a public discussion of the extensive testimony received during the final public hearing and gained further advantage by getting permission to submit a new proposal in the absence of any public comment or review, and at a meeting where no oral testimony will be accepted on the matter. Whether this was done intentionally or not, The outcome has resulted in special treatment for the applicant at the expense of the broadest public interest, and is up to the Commission to set things right. To that end, we believe the Commission has an obligation to assure fair and equitable access to its records and staff, as well as certainty with respect to the review process it follows when approaching a major development proposal like the Lewis Road PRD. Today, we ask you to consider our concerns, retake control of this application, focus on the record before you, and follow the review procedures you established when you set out to complete the review of this application in August. Thank you for your time and consideration of our comments. Sincerely, Robert S. DeLuca, President. The third comment is from Andrea Spilka of the Southampton Town Civic Coalition. And Ms. Spilka writes, Dear Chairperson Gallagher and Commissioners, I was extremely disappointed to see that the special meeting on Lewis Road has been canceled, and that the applicant plans to submit another set of revised plans at tomorrow's Commission meeting, along with a request for an extension of the decision deadline. It appears that once again there is a different procedural standard for discovery land and their proposed golf resort than for other developments. Sadly, the Commission's review of the project is starting to parallel Southampton Town's by allowing several revisions to the plan and now allowing the applicant to submit a new plan after the action deadline. It appears that the level playing field the civics had hoped for has definitely tilted in favor of a developer whose project has such significant environmental ramifications for our water quality, community character, and even the noise level with increased air traffic at Gabreski, not to mention the undesirable precedent for all future applications. From the very beginning, Discovery seemed to have been given the white glove treatment in Southampton Town. Their initial Hills PDD pre-application for 81 homes and a golf course immediately morphed into 118 homes and a golf resort the day after their pre-application was approved. When two sitting board members voted to deny the PDD, along with a now sitting third board member who vowed to vote against it, the Southampton ZBA miraculously agreed to consider a golf resort as a subdivision amenity under the town's open space law. With the latest request, the applicant is now modifying their July 1st application, which was substantially different than their June application, which is already significantly different than what the Planning Board granted in October 2019, let alone the PDD that served as the basis for the FEIS submitted in September 2017. This has been an ever-evolving project in spite of the applicant's insistence with each submission that all's fine when obviously it was not fine. The failure of the Southampton Planning Board to properly assert lead agency status or to follow through in their consultants' recommendations on important environmental concerns undermines the need for increased scrutiny for the project in this sensitive location. As stewards of the Pine Barren region, commissioners are required to take a more regional approach to land use proposals. Looking at the cumulative impact of this project, not just individual sections of the club, how can the Commission ever approve a water-intensive, dual-use golf resort in this already compromised watershed and still fulfill its statutory mission? On behalf of the Southampton Town Civic Coalition and its member organizations, I urge you to deny this Lewis Road application. Thank you, Andrea Spilka, President, Southampton Town Civic Coalition. The next set of comments is from Richard Amper of the Long Island Pine Barrens Society. And he writes, the Pine Barrens Commission was created in 1993 to protect and preserve the Pine Barrens ecosystem, not to promote development that fails to meet the standards, guidelines, and requirements of the Pine Barrens Act and Land Use Plan. It is clear that the Lewis Road PRD fails to meet these requirements, so the Commission is required to disapprove of the project. Yet, it does not. The Commission is charged with interaction with the public on Pine Barrens matters. Yet Commission staff has declined to meet with environmentalists and civic leaders committed to the protection of the Pine Barrens. Moreover, input on our part has been blocked or strictly limited. We asked the Commission chairwoman to organize immediately a discussion on future management of the Commission and the immediate removal of John Pavicic as Executive Director for failure to protect the resource. Sincerely, Richard Amper, Executive Director, Long Island Pine Barrens Society. Second to last comment is from Victoria Greenbaum. Dear Commissioners, it seems rules and deadlines on the public are written in stone. I am under a deadline to get this comment in before 12 noon today, September 16, 2020. I'm dismayed at the considerations allowed to the developers of the Lewis Road PRD. Time and again, the authorities bend over backwards to accommodate them, yet they are the ones who should be held to the highest level of the Commission's requirements. One would expect that an experienced company like Discovery Land Company would be able to submit final plans which would be acceptable to the restrictions of the Pine Barrens Commission when presented. COVID-19 notwithstanding, these plans were submitted long before the virus was an issue. Are the developers that incompetent? If so, how would they manage the tremendous construction project they propose? Would they be capable of adhering to all the rules set out in the event of approval? I think not, as the history of this proposal, always morphing, tells us. The alternative is worse. Are they actually tweaking the parameters of the project, as I stated in my last email to the Commission, to gain approval with the smallest of considerations to the protection of the Pine Barrens? Are they trustworthy enough to manage this tremendous construction project within the guidelines if approved? Who will oversee the job? What will happen after the project is completed? Will changes be made once authorities are gone? As stated in an email to the Pine Barrens Commission from Judge Dominic Lodato, golf courses are always in a constant state of change. Members there tease, widen areas, and make changes to improve the course. What then? Please reject this proposal as it was intended to be voted on today before the newest version the developer has asked to submit today. You are representatives of the sensitive Pine Barrens for the benefits of the citizenry of this area. Rules are rules. Deadlines are just that, deadlines. No more extensions. Give the public their due and allow comments on this new version of the proposal if you decide to review it. As my mother used to say, enough already. Victoria Greenbaum, East Quogue. Last comment received prior to today's meeting. Dear Pine Barrens Commissioners, we in East Quogue have been fighting the golf course for many years. First it was the PDD, which our town board voted down after years of community opposition. Then an attempted zoning village convincingly voted down by East Quogue residents. Now our PRD being forced on two appointed boards, the Southampton ZBA and Planning Board. These boards seem to be intimidated or infiltrated. Either is no good. The appropriate in-place country residence 5-acre zoning has yielded no homes to date. The special permission request for a golf course is to generate interest in the proposed dwellings where no interest exists. A gift or a grift, either is no good. A golf course is in violation of Town Code Section 247-9D. Please do not allow corrupt commercial development in the Pine Barrens. Michael Marino. And those constitute all the comments we have received prior to the Commission meeting today.
Okay, we will move on then to the minutes. So we need, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second? All right, I'll second it. And then do we, you know me, do you want others to raise their hands? What's the easiest way, John, for you guys to identify for the record?
For folks to speak?
No, I'm saying if they're all in favor, should they just raise their hands so you can see it on the screen, or?
Yeah, if they raise their hands, yeah, that would be the most helpful.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it looks like that is unanimous for the minutes to be approved. Moving on to agenda item 2, science and stewardship. We updates have been circulated, so I think we'll just ask staff to come up to the podium, and if you have a question for them based on what was circulated, you can ask, just again so we can keep things moving. So first item is, oh, actually, John, you're going to give an update, or do you want to provide an update, or you circulated an update on NIWEMA?
Yeah, that's already been circulated, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Hearing none, we'll move on to education and outreach. Melissa? So does anyone have questions for Melissa?
No. Good.
No? Okay. Next, science and stewardship. Any questions for Polly?
Doing a good job, Polly.
Okay. And then Judy, I know you did want to mention one thing about the updates and outreach initiative with the CWPP.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to mention that we're going to be holding a virtual wildfire prevention workshop, wildfire ignition resistance, stopping the disaster, on Saturday, October 17th, between 9 and 11 a.m. And I will send you a copy of the information as well. It will go through teaching or showing homeowners how to actually assess their own property for where they're vulnerable to wildfire, and a lot of good information provided by a former National Wildfire Protection Agency person who now is in the private sector. And that's all I wanted to mention.
Okay, thanks, Judy. On to agenda item 3, land use. And the first, again, we had the Compliance and Enforcement Division update was circulated. Are there any questions for Tim? Hearing none.
Doing a good job, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Land Use Division, any questions for Julie on the update that was circulated? If not, on to the credit program. Jerry had circulated an update as well. Are there any questions for Jerry? No. Okay, then we'll move on to the Peconic River Sportsman's Club, the settlement, and John, do you want to walk us through the changes we need to authorize?
Sure. So I would like to ask the commission to adopt a resolution which authorizes changes to the draft consent order in regard to the penalty, the time frames for compliance for both the infrastructure and the update of the survey, and planting requirements, and also to maintain the requirement for a landscape architect.
Is Yvette going to make that motion?
That would make sense, right?
Yes.
She's muted.
Oh, yeah. You need to unmute, Yvette, if you're going to make a motion since this is in your town. Do you want to make the motion, Yvette, since this is in your town? Okay.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I make a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Great. Okay, so we'll do the same thing. All in favor, raise your hands, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Abstentions? Okay. So motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now on to the subject of all of the comments we received. Lewis Road Planned Residential Development, Assertion of Jurisdiction application. I understand, so today is the decision deadline, and we've received a request for an extension of the decision deadline.
Can I ask when that request was received?
I think Julie or John, do you want to walk us, do you want to give us a status update quickly?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman. Good afternoon, Commission members and representatives. As you know, today is the decision deadline in the review of the assertion application for Lewis Road.
The applicant submitted a request for an extension of the decision deadline to December 16th. It's our understanding that the town has performed a technical review of the plans and the project and identified deficiencies in conformance and communicated them to the applicant. The applicant is revising their plans, and once revised plans are completed and submitted, they will be reviewed by the commission, and and it is, up to the commission if you want to reopen the public hearing, comments on the new plans, but we expect that that would occur. And again, there is a request for extension before you today.
Can I make a comment at this point as a member of the commission?
Ted, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to deny the application by Lewis Road to adjourn the deadline for final determination regarding its proposed project. Today is the final date that was set forth at the applicant's request and approved by the commission for final determination. The basis of the request for an adjournment is the applicant's statement that it is in the process of making changes to its development plan, which, by the way, it's not the first time this has happened. To avoid any confusion, since today was the date set forth for the final vote, and I assume the request just came in this morning to extend, I also vote to deny the proposed project before the Pine Barrens Commission. Neither the commission nor its staff has seen the new proposed plan. The applicant wishes to pursue this plan, this new plan, it has a right to reapply. But we should not grant the extension. So I've made my motion. I hope someone will second it.
Can I weigh in here too? Since this,
As soon as it's second, then we'll have a motion.
Yeah,
to discuss.
right. Okay, so Ed, so for the purpose of moving discussion along, Ed, I will second that motion, and now we can have discussion on the motion. Jay?
yeah, so
Supervisor Thurman?
as a supervisor of the town where this development project is being proposed, I think it's important that you hear what's happening here. So, Marty Shea is our senior environmental analyst. You're all familiar with Marty. I had tasked Marty with doing a detailed analysis on my behalf to determine whether the proposed development meets or does not meet the standards and guidelines of the Central Pine Barrens plan. And to do that analysis, additional information was needed by Marty, who requested that information. It's highly detailed, highly technical, and required some time. Marty was able to get that information, but we need a little bit more time to finish the analysis. And that's really what this is about. Marty, did you want to add anything to that that might be helpful for the commission? We lost your video and you're still muted.
And while we're waiting for Marty, I will note that the applicant sent a letter in. And in all fairness, if the letters have been read into the record, his letter should be read in as well. And it's not into the record, it's just been read before the commission. The record is closed out of the last public hearing.
Yeah, and I think,
I'll read
these changes, as we also wait for Marty, and maybe the administrator has to unmute Marty or allow him to unmute. I think that would be helpful. But these are primarily changes to grading and drainage in the plan. These are not major changes to the plan in any way. Just minor changes to the grading and to the drainage here. Marty, are you?
Right. I just got unmuted, so I'm happy to speak now. I have been working with the applicants, as indicated, since the hearing had closed. I had a sit down with the applicants, at which time I requested additional information in order to complete a technical analysis. The applicant came back with revised plans, which I've reviewed and requested additional changes to. The changes relate to steep slope impacts, clearance conformance with clearance standards, and provisions for contiguous open space. The applicants have agreed to make additional significant changes to the project plans, and they're in the midst of doing that. And they're looking to get the revised plans to me early next week, and then are looking to meet to discuss those plans.
If I may, since the applicant is making significant changes, this really should be a new application. We've gone through this process multiple times, and each time the applicant has asked for an extension and submitted very different plans. Now, we hear the plans that they're going to submit have significant changes. This is a new application. As far as the extension is concerned, I'll just quickly end by saying that extension was not requested as of yesterday. It had to be as of this morning. Waited to the last minute to request it. We should not extend this. This is decision day. We should deny the request for extension, deny the application, and allow the applicant to come back with his significant changes and submit a new plan. And for us to keep saying that this is based on the original plan that has morphed so many different times doesn't make sense.
Well, maybe
But
Marty,
I'll be quiet at this point and allow my colleagues to speak.
well, maybe Marty could explain what he means by significant changes, because the changes have to do with the golf course, minor gradings and things like that. There's no additional housing units. There's no change in placement of that. Marty, can you give us a little more when you say significant changes? They're all reductions, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The changes are, the changes primarily relate to the proposed grade modifications. Upon my technical analysis, I found that the grading plan was not consistent with the other plans with regards to the degree of steep slope impacts with respect to clearing and in terms of protection of contiguous open space. So the significant changes that I speak to are related to the grade modifications and the reduction of clearing and the reduction of disturbance and the accommodation of provisions primarily through the grade modifications to better protect the contiguous open space that is proposed. While there may be some minor changes to the configuration and location of a few lots, at this time, I have not requested any significant changes to the project layout.
Thank you. John?
The applicant has indicated they went through an initial plan modification, got the modified plan to me. I asked for additional changes. They have been working 24/7 on those revisions, and they're going to expect to get those final plans to me early next week.
So again, the delay here is largely because the town has requested additional information to do further technical review, Supervisor Romaine, and we're just asking for that time so that we can conclude our review so that Marty can help advise me and hopefully other members too in terms of conformity with the plan.
I look forward to reviewing the new plan. Since this plan is going to be rejected, I look forward to them submitting their new plan, but I do not look forward to extending yet again another deadline.
This is John Pavis. I'd just like to I've been asked to read in the applicant's letter. Dear Commission members, as the Commission is aware, the continuation of the public hearing on the above captioned application, which was delayed by COVID-19 restrictions, was closed on August 19, 2020, and the written record was closed shortly thereafter. The deadline for the Commission's actions on the application was mutually extended up to and including your meeting on September 16, 2020. The applicant was given notice that the Commission had scheduled a special meeting for deliberation on the application for September 11, 2020. The special meeting, however, was canceled due to communications between representatives of the applicant, Town of Southampton, and Commission staff related to the Town of Southampton's request for further refinements to the grading and drainage plan for the latest project design submitted in June 2020. Specifically, representatives of the Town of Southampton recently contacted the applicant and advised that they desired certain modifications to the details of the grading and drainage plan submitted to the Commission in June 2020. The town's comments were related to plan refinements to reduce the amount of grading associated with the drainage areas in the steeper sloped areas of the project site. If you recall, the Town of Southampton is ultimately charged with assuring that the grading and drainage plans meet all regulatory stormwater runoff protection requirements. So the applicant's design team immediately prepared revised grading and drainage plans addressing the issues and shared them with the town representatives last week for further review and comment. Although the final details of grading and drainage plans for a subdivision are customarily left for the Town of Southampton Planning Board to review and approve during their final plat review, the applicant was encouraged by the town's representatives to submit the revised grading and drainage plans to the Commission. The applicant had planned to make a formal submission of these revised plans to the Commission by your meeting on September 16, 2020, but the applicant is still awaiting further technical review from the town. Given that the public hearing record was closed, we were advised by the Commission's counsel that the applicant should request that the public record be reopened to accept such revised grading and drainage plans. While it is possible that the minor magnitude of the plan modifications may not trigger the requirement of a public hearing on those plan modifications, the Commission may choose nonetheless to request public comments on the revised grading and drainage plans by renoticing and holding a public hearing for that limited purpose. Accordingly, given that the Commission's action deadline expires on September 16, 2020, and in light of the Commission's cancellation of its special meeting to deliberate, the applicant respectfully requests that the Commission reopen the public record for the purpose of accepting the applicant's revised grading and drainage plans, and upon submission of the revised grading and drainage plans on or before October 7, 2020, the Commission, if it so determines, may schedule and notice a public hearing for the purpose of receiving comment on the revised grading and drainage plans at your meeting on November 18, 2020. The applicant also requests and consents to the adjournment of the Commission's action deadline on the application up to and including your meeting on December 16, 2020. I'm available to answer any questions with respect to this request at your meeting on September 16, 2020. Very truly yours, Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marstonchuk, and Bruin, LLP.
Thank you, John. This is Carrie. I want to bring us back to, I think, order of business for the day. We have received that extension request, so I believe the first order would be that we would have to act upon that request. Is that accurate, John Milazzo?
Yeah, the motion.
Yeah, I know that. Well, it wasn't clear to me, Ed, if your motion was to do two things. Were you proposing to deny the request and deny the project in the same
Well,
same
what I'm
resolution?
saying,
Should it be two resolutions?
If we deny the extension, we would deny the project.
So Carrie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's the motion on the floor, which is from Supervisor Romaine to deny the extension. Because the commission decision deadline is today, if the commission does not extend the deadline, the project then has to have a decision. If the commission does not deny the project today, it would receive a default approval under the statute. So what the supervisor did was, his resolution was two pieces, which was to deny the extension request and to avoid having a default approval. He then coupled with a decision denial based on the lack of plan, which the applicant's attorney's letter acknowledges is evolving, as Supervisor Schneiderman indicated, based on revisions that are ongoing, that iterative process with the town. So Supervisor Romaine's motion addresses two pieces of that. For the commission,
Okay.
if the commission doesn't extend the deadline, it will have to decide the application on its merits today because of the decision deadline being right now.
And Carrie, I would like to make a competing motion to, accept the extension and to reopen the record for comments pertaining to that, to any changes in the drainage and grading plan. And with
Just
the
as a
very,
point of order, Jay, I don't think your motion can be addressed until the Romaine motion is resolved, and resolved being voted upon. And with respect to your motion, I think you would tailor it to say that we would have a public hearing after receipt of some revision from the applicant. I would encourage the commission not to get caught with scheduling a public hearing today because there's no application revision to consider, and that would give the applicant and the town whatever time's needed to make whatever revisions are deemed appropriate, and then they can move forward. It also, as the applicant's attorney has indicated, we have stated that this would have another public hearing, so you would have time for the public hearing to be scheduled. And I just want to point out, as the applicant's letter indicated, commission staff has not been dealing with the applicant on this. There's been a conference call with the attorneys about the process of getting letters in and asking for an extension, but merits and the intricacies of the application have not been debated with the staff. And I just want to get that out there for the people's consideration, just so that the misinformation that seems to be floating around is addressed.
I think
So,
the applicant,
Supervisor Schneiderman, your motion will have to wait until Supervisor Romaine's motion is either voted upon or withdrawn to allow your motion to be considered.
I do believe we have a request from the applicant's attorney to address the board as well.
We have indicated that that's fine if it's only relating to the extension, because the commission has not allowed public participation from anyone else. So we want to make sure that this process, right? So we're concerned about process here, is fair to all. So that's, if Wayne wants to address this question of the extension, that's fine. Otherwise, we want to keep this process open to all and equal to all and transparent. So Wayne, with that guidance, if they unmute you, you can address the commission on this question of extension alone, and then we'll deal with it after. We still have the pending resolution from Romaine. Hi, Wayne.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, commission members, and I appreciate the offer to the opportunity to say something. I believe our letter, I appreciate you reading our letter. I think it states very clearly our position on the matter. As Supervisor Schneiderman has indicated, at the late hour that we received comments from the town, when we really appreciate any and all comments to make this a better project, we immediately tried to respond. And to Mr. Malazzo's comments, the only conversations we had were with respect to process as to what to do now in light of the comments, and how, if we were to provide this information, to get it on the record and to be able to have the necessary public opportunity to be heard. With all due respect, the motion on the table, I believe, is both factually and legally deficient. You have not considered and deliberated on this application. You haven't considered and adopted any seeker finding statements or anything else that would support the record, and in my opinion would otherwise be arbitrary and capricious. In light of that, and as your counsel has indicated, but for an extension, any other lack of action is under your own regulations a default approval. Of course, you know, the applicant is willing to accept that if that's the position you want to take, of course. But we really want the record to be clear, and certainly the town has been mindful, as I indicated in the letter, and as the supervisor and Mr. Shea have indicated, the refinements that have been asked for here go to the details of grading and drainage. Ultimately, the town of Southampton is responsible for making sure the property has the proper drainage and the grading occurs. So we're trying to be responsive at this point. We believe the project, even in its form in June, complies with all standards. And
Wayne, I'm sorry to cut you off, but again, we spoke and we indicated you could speak to the extension, and you're getting into the merits, and
I'm sorry.
That's not appropriate. I just want to keep the record, which is closed, as clean as can be. With respect to your statement as to the findings, if Supervisor Romaine indicated that the findings the commission could adopt today would be there is a no impact to the environment, because if the project is denied, there's no physical change to the project site that would be appropriate for his resolution to address your concern. And again, his resolution is the one that's pending.
Okay, it's Carrie. So, yeah, well, while I certainly appreciate the applicant's willingness to be responsive to all the town's concerns and in an effort to improve the environmental aspects of the project, my concern here is that the town of Southampton has a role in reviewing the project, and the Pine Barrens Commission has a separate and distinct role in reviewing the project, and it seems that those two processes have become convoluted as this continues. So I just wanted to state that after hearing from Wayne. And is there would any other commission members, we've heard from Ed's resolution is out there, his motion's out there. We've heard from Jay. I don't know if Yvette or if the county, if anyone wanted to say anything before we move to a vote.
I believe, Polly, if you could unmute Yvette. Supervisor Aguiar, you are on.
Yes.
We apologize.
Mhm.
All right, there you go.
What's the question?
Okay. I'm sorry, Ed had to get an emergency call. He's now back, so, okay. Why don't you?
Okay. So Carrie Gallagher asked if any of the other commission members had comments on the resolution. I'll turn to Dorian Dale and the county representatives. Are there any comments from the county on the pending resolution from Ed Romaine, as I assume he revised it with the finding statement modification to address the requirement of finding statement there would be no impact on the environment of a denial?
I think the county would look to defer to the town of Southampton's efforts to improve the project. It seems to be coming at their behest. I know there are a lot of convolutions here, but it doesn't seem, frankly, overly unreasonable to really grant an extension. I know we're voting on Supervisor Romaine's motion to tank it, but it certainly, at this juncture, given all, as Supervisor Romaine has indicated, the extensions and convolutions, et cetera, that have been attendant to this project, to defer on really what turn out to be some very practicable proposed improvements in the drainage aspect of it. It would seem reasonable, I think, to extend the to grant the extension, that is.
Thank you, Dorian. Town of Riverhead,
I think it's reasonable to provide an extension.
thank you. So we'll close. Carrie, I'm not running your meeting, but you have the motion, you've had the second, and you've had discussion on the Romaine motion. I think you could have your vote by a show of hands on the Romaine motion.
So all in favor? Oh, Jay,
I'm sorry.
did you want to say
I was
something?
gonna say, to vote no, we don't show our hands, obviously. So
That's
how
right.
do you want to call the vote then?
Why don't you do
Well,
a roll call?
Roll
We can-
call?
Yep, we can do roll call. So obviously Ed's in favor. I'm going to support, yes, I'm supporting Ed's motion.
I'm a no. Oh, you gotta do it by roll call.
Yeah, I know.
County of Suffolk, to add the Romaine motion to deny the project, not grant the extension, deny the project, and issue a finding statement.
No on the motion.
Town of Riverhead,
No on the motion.
so, and Town of Southampton,
No on the motion.
motion fails 3-2. The project has not been extended. The commission needs now to turn to whether grant an extension or to decide the application on its merits. And we've heard from the applicant, we've heard from the town of Southampton that the project is being modified. So there's not really a place for, I would recommend that you do not approve the project or deny the project based on the changes that are being proposed. And I say that do not deny because you already had a motion to deny in which you rejected. So then the question then, is there a motion from someone to grant the extension? Applicant in his letter, or its letter, excuse me for the pronoun, suggested a decision deadline of December. I will turn to John Pavasek on whether that's an appropriate amount of time, and also Jay and Marty, whether more time is needed. One of the confounding issues with this project has always been these action deadlines, which forces us to make schedule special meetings and whatnot. And, you know, to give the project its review, to have another public hearing, to make sure the process continues to be transparent. I question whether staff feels more time is necessary. And yes, I used the word feels.
So John Pavasek here. Certainly more time beyond December 16th, I think would be appropriate, you know, given the significance of this project. You know, we have commission staff, I will point out, have not been participated in any of these discussions between the town of Southampton and the applicant. And so we are not, you know, we have not seen exactly what changes have been proposed, what potential deficiencies have been identified. So to be prudent, you know, an extension beyond December 16th, you know, would I think be appropriate into 2021. Because, you know, there seems to be also a significant rush to move forward on this, and you know, we want to ensure there's ample time for staff, for the commission members, and also for the general public to be able to review any proposed changes as well and provide substantive comment.
John, do you have a date or a suggested date? Sometime in January?
I would think at least to the first commission meeting in January, if not February, January 2021, whatever date that would be the third Wednesday in January.
Which I will note is after John's retirement.
Good try there.
So do we have a date? You said it's the,
January 20th, Judy has just advised. That would be Wednesday, January 20th.
inauguration day.
Yes.
Well, I can make it the February. But, yeah, that's, I think from, staff standpoint, there's been quite a few staff involved in the review of the prior iterations of the project. Hundreds, if not thousands of hours expended. Certainly, significant amount of commission member time as well.
All right, so, and I might need some assistance from John Milazzo here, but I'd like to make that motion to accept the extension, to reopen the record, at least to the limited degree as it pertains to the changes in the grading and drainage plan. So we can have further public comment, further public hearing, with a decision deadline, I guess, of January 20th, 2021. John, what did I leave out in that motion?
The only thing that you left out was the applicant's, I know Wayne is still, I see his name is still on the screen. They would have to agree to grant the extension till January. If they don't, we'll be forced with either granting it, they've offered till December. If the commission rejects it, then you're back to considering Supervisor Romaine's motion if the extension is not granted to the time that staff needs it needs.
Well, let me ask Marty then how far along he is with the review, because if we're going to have, the town piece done pretty quick, then the December deadline may be sufficient for the Pine Barrens staff to review any of the proposed changes. Marty, where were you on it in the review?
Yeah, I can respond to that. The December deadline would be sufficient to complete the town review.
The December, but then the Pine Barren staff is also requesting more time too.
The commission has not even received revised plans yet. So if the commission receives them, say in the next few weeks, that's if it's in the next few weeks or into October, the commission would need to review them and schedule a public hearing, which may occur in November. There would need to be a public comment period, most likely, and you would need to deliberate the project again. So you need to give yourself enough time to review the revised plans, which we haven't even received yet. And the town may need more time. They have just expressed they've just provided the comments and would need to review them, and I don't know if they'll have more comments, but we're not certain, considering we don't have the plans before us at this time. But it is up to the commission.
But right now we only have a written extension agreement from the applicant till what day? Sometime in December, correct?
Yes, the applicant offered, and I'm looking over at the Zoom group chat bar, and in their letter, they granted an extension until the commission's December meeting. And I think they even called out the date, December 16th. So that's what's the offer. And I don't know, and I think Marty, the question for Marty was that the town needed until December, or the town's review would be done sooner than that?
The applicant has indicated in their letter that they anticipate submitting a revised plan to the commission on or before October 7. And as previously indicated, the extension that the applicant is looking to grant would appear to provide sufficient time for the applicant for the town to continue to review revised plans submitted by the applicant and to provide feedback where necessary to the applicant.
So I guess my question then to Julie, if you would have everything by that October 7th timeframe, would the December 16th meeting be sufficient for you to go through that? That's almost 2 months.
So October 21st, I think, is your next meeting. And So if at that meeting, would you be scheduling a hearing to occur in November? November, is it 16th?
I say so, yes. Remember, what's the date?
16.
16th?
So then you would have a meeting November 16th, and then you would be ready for a decision in December. It's up to the commission. But,
November 18th.
November 18th, okay, and then a decision December 16th. So that is, and obviously the holidays in there. The December 16th would be the deadline, and we would appreciate the commission's deliberation on it as well after the hearing. If you do something similar to the last hearing, you had a 5-day written comment period, and then you were planning to deliberate. So sometime between the November and December meetings, there may need to be a special meeting, or if you deliberate at December 16th and make a decision December 16th.
Yeah, I would request, so if the applicant does submit revised plans in the next couple of weeks, we schedule an schedule at the October 21st meeting a hearing to be conducted on November 18th. I would also ask that the commission members at that October 21st meeting set a special meeting date to occur sometime between November 18th and December 16th for deliberation on Lewis Road, similar to what we had planned previously. And that way we can make sure there's enough time so that all the commission members can find a date on which they're all available.
There were items at the end of the last meeting, at the end of the last hearing, there were items still that needed your special attention. So the items that the town has reviewed may or may not cover all of those items. So we still need to make sure we go through all of these standards and guidelines, how this project conforms or does not conform to one or more of those.
Okay, so then my motion then would take us to that December 16th timeframe. I don't think in the motion, like, obviously can't set the public hearing, so but we can reopen the record, can we not?
Right
now?
No, so when you wouldn't,
Yeah.
go ahead, Julie.
No, but this is Carrie. Can I just intervene for a minute here? So my concern again is I don't want to shortchange. I just want to make sure we are not shortchanging the commission's time for due diligence and public process and transparency with how this moves forward. So if staff are more comfortable with the January and again, I understand the extension letter only said to the 16th, I guess, and I don't know what control we have over that. I do feel like it's going to be very tight if we're just getting the information for October, have to have the public hearing, then get comments from the public hearing, review that in case there are additional changes. I don't know, just again, going back over the history of how this project has gone, it seems like it would be, a lot safer to have that extra month at a minimum.
We don't have it unless we're given it, which is.
I understand.
We have a dilemma.
Exactly.
So we have a dilemma. So if we get to December and we haven't finished everything and we don't have an extension of time, then we'll be in the unfortunate position of having to make a decision with an incomplete record.
Guys,
Which
can
is,
I'm sorry,
Gary?
Wayne, do you grant the extension to January as the applicant's representative?
He may be muted.
Yeah.
Well, I think he's back.
Hello. I would have to consult with my client. Obviously, our letter was well considered and thought out. It was discussed previously with council and staff as to the time period. Understanding this is the board commission's standard review process. 2 weeks before any meeting, submissions are made, and then a public hearing is scheduled for the next meeting a month later. Being mindful that these are relatively minor changes to a review process, that you've had for several months. Certainly, if we get to the point of the public hearing, and there are concerns about timing and the ability of the commission to achieve your review, that could be communicated to us, and I'm sure my clients will consider that. But at this moment, I would have to go back and consult with them to determine if anything beyond December is acceptable.
And further, for edification of the commission members, in our conversations, Steve Barshaw's indicating he wishes to speak on the timeline. Wayne, in our conversations, and John was with us, we asked for a much longer period of an extension. We sought 9 months. So I just want to make sure everyone on the staff, commission hears that. So I think your co-counsels indicated an interest in speaking on this issue alone. I know he's your special counsel for seeker issues, but if
He's our litigation counsel.
Litigation counsel, that's fine. If he wishes to weigh in on the timeline issue and granting a further extension, please do so. In light of the, and then the commission will have to decide whether it revisits the granting of the extension if it's not to the time that staff has indicated they're seeking.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Barshoff, Saif, Paget, and Rizal. I'm co-counsel. And while Wayne was speaking, I texted our clients who indicated to me that they would support the extension into January so that there's an ample amount of time for staff and everyone to work this through in an orderly fashion. I would also add that we're cognizant that the end of November and into December is the time of the holidays. And so that, although that hasn't been mentioned, I think that that is also a reasonable consideration for everyone to be cognizant of. So with that said, please be guided accordingly. The applicant is okay with January.
Okay.
Fortunately, I wasn't able to look at my text messages as they were going through. Thank you.
So, you know, to John Malazzo, I guess we can consider that a formal consent to the extension until the end of January. So for my motion then, I guess we'll use that January 20th, 21 deadline for decision.
Okay, so the motion on the floor, the motion is from Supervisor Schneiderman. It's to grant an extension and accept the applicant's extension request to January 20th of 2021. And it is incumbent upon the applicant as part of the resolution. I know someone's trying to write this, so that is deadline. And Wayne and Stephen, if I could add, that's incumbent or dependent upon your submission of materials to the commission by October 9, which will give commission staff a week and a half to review for the October meeting. If the materials are in by October 9, the commission's deadline would then be January 2021. If you don't meet that October 9 deadline, we'll have to revisit and we'll seek consent. And I guess you'll grant the consent for another month till February, but sort of a contingent resolution, only because we don't want to do this every month. And if you don't get the materials in on time, we're going to be scrambling around again. So the resolution from Supervisor Schneiderman is as follows: to grant and accept the extension request to January for a decision on the Lewis Road PRD application for the conformance question until January 2021, if subject to the applicant submitting a revised application by October 9, 2020. There will be another public hearing on this, probably in no earlier than November.
Yeah, so I think part of my motion would be to reopen the record.
Yep, the motion, the record we reopen. So what would happen, this is outside the resolution. So I'm envisioning the process as follows. They would submit materials to the commission by October 9. Upon receipt, they'll be posted on the website, so everyone will have a fair opportunity to comment on those at a November hearing. Commission staff would try to get a staff report out before the November meeting, which would be shared with the applicant and also posted on the website. So there would be at least a month, maybe 6 weeks between the receipt of the applicant's materials before the hearing and a month or 3 weeks or so from the staff report before the public hearing, so that everyone could then have comment at the public hearing. The public hearing may be limited to the changes between the applicant that's been presented and been subject to a public hearing and the material changes that will occur in the interim. And that would be the focus of the public hearing in November, provided the timelines are met, which then would have a close of the public portion of the hearing, accept submission of written comments for some period to be determined, with a goal of having everything in order in December or January at the latest for a conformance determination. Remember, we've talked about this many a time. This application at this point is to determine whether it conforms with the standards and guidelines. And if it does, it proceeds. If it does not, if the applicant wishes, he or she or it can apply for a hardship relief from the standards and guidelines it does not conform with.
All right, so John, though, for the purposes of the motion, it's to extend the decision deadline, right?
Accept the extension deadline to January 2021.
And to reopen the record, no?
Yes, reopen your record after the hearing, at the hearing.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Downey will second the motion.
Johnny will second the motion. Carrie, do you want
Okay.
to do a roll call?
Sure. So we'll start with Southampton.
Aye.
You know, County,
Aye.
Riverhead,
Yes.
Brookhaven,
No.
and the state will vote yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Fine for our public hearing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're over.
And you know what I realized? John, I don't think I have in front of me the statement I'm supposed to read for the public hearing. So, is it in the packet somewhere? Let me pull up the, if not, you guys can read it, I guess.
No, I apologize. It's, let me get it. Is she on, the stenographer? Yes. Okay.
So you guys just read it from the meeting room, since I can't, I don't have it in front of me here.
All right, Julie's going to read it.
Perfect. John, do we need a brief recess for you guys to get reset up for the public hearing?
Julie's back. We okay for, you want me to read it? Okay. We set up for the,
I'm just following up. To Carrie.
right.
So, sorry about that. I want to ask Blair Gaza if she has a presentation that she's giving.
Well, let me read this first and then. Okay, so I have the notice of public hearing in front of me. Pursuant to the New York State Environmental Conservation Law, Article 57-0121, Paragraph 10, and the Central Pine Barrens Comprehensive Land Use Plan, notice is hereby given that the Central Pine Barrens Joint Planning and Policy Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, September 16th, 2020, on the matter of a core preservation area extraordinary hardship waiver. The name of the project is Joseph F. Gaza Core Preservation Area Hardship Waiver Application. The applicant/owner is Joseph F. Gaza, attorney. The project site location is Mill Road, Maniville, Town of Brookhaven. The project site, Suffolk County tax map numbers are 200-355-4 Lot 5 and 200-412-3 Lot 6. The project description entails the proposal is a 12-lot residential cluster subdivision on 58.9 acres with 46 acres of open space. An alternative plan is proposed to develop one single-family residence on 5 acres. The site is presently naturally vegetated. The 12-lot subdivision is preliminarily classified as a Type 1 action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act regulations. The alternative for one single-family residence is a Type 2 action pursuant to the SEQA regulations. The Commission performed a coordinated review, and the hearing is being held remotely at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, September 16th, 2020 via Zoom format. And the Zoom meeting link will be provided on the Commission's website, and project materials are posted at https://pb.state.ny.us. So I think we have a presentation from Julie.
Thank you.
Do you want to check with Domenica to make sure she's all set?
Yeah.
Is this
Are you ready to go?
I'm ready. I just don't know who's in the Central Pine Barrens box. I can't see the gentleman. Are you in there with him?
This is Joseph Gaza.
Oh, John Pavasic,
I'm the Executive Director, John W. Pavasic,
Okay.
PA, P as in Peter A, V as in Victor A, CIC.
Okay. I had a feeling it was you, but I wasn't sure. Okay.
Thanks.
I'm good to go.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And Carrie?
Do we have to identify the Commission members present?
Yeah, can you see us on the screen, Domenica, or do you want us to?
I most of you, I just see your names.
Okay, right, so the ones that are Commission members, it's Carrie Meek Gallagher for the State of New York,
Okay.
Jay Schneiderman for the Town of Southampton, Ed Romaine for the Town of Brookhaven, Yvette Aguirre for the Town of Riverhead, and Dorian Dale for the County of Suffolk.
Okay. Perfect.
I just wanted to say, this is Emily Pines. Ed has a little emergency, so I will be sitting in as his delegate until he returns.
Emily.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just try to briefly go through the staff report, and then the applicant is present and would like to make a brief presentation to you also. Again, this is almost 59 acres in the core preservation area in Manorville. The site is 2 non-contiguous parcels separated by the Long Island Expressway, both in the core preservation area. The northern parcel has frontage on Mill Road, and the southern parcel has only the highway road frontage. The site is entirely wooded with pine barrens vegetation and habitat. The applicant purchased the property last year in 2019 with the intention to sell the property for open space acquisition to a public agency. And we've been informed the Town of Brookhaven and the county are in the process of this potential acquisition. But the applicant is proceeding with this application at this time, so we're processing it accordingly. The applicant has stated he owns over 13 Pine Barrens credits, so he does not seek to obtain Pine Barrens credits on this property. He has no use for them, he's expressed in his application. Currently, the applicant has submitted this application, and they propose to develop the property with a 12-lot subdivision, a cluster subdivision with 46 acres of open space. And the alternative proposal is to develop 5 acres with a single-family residence or a horse-loving family they've expressed in the application. The applicant would seek to obtain Pine Barrens credits on the remainder of the property in the case of the alternative proposal. There is an overlap condition that exists on a portion of the southerly parcel in the project site that would need to be resolved before Pine Barrens credits could be issued on that portion. The overlap portion is on 10.93 acres, and if that was resolved, it would generate 1.75 credits. The rest of the property would generate approximately 10 Pine Barrens credits.
Do you want me to put any of those maps up?
That's okay. The commission has the package, and in the package there is a subdivision map as an exhibit. I'll go through the exhibits, and the applicant has also received the staff report with exhibits. There's a mapped and regulated freshwater wetland habitat adjacent to the west side of the site, and that site is also habitat for New York State listed endangered species. There would be wetland endangered species regulations that would apply in this case, and the applicant would need to obtain permits pursuant to those regulations and adhere to any regulatory requirements to protect those species and their habitat. There's also the federal and state listed threatened species on the property. The subdivision is situated, so to go to the study area description, there is a subdivision to the west side of the property, and other lots are developed on the Primrose Path north of the property. And there's a study area map in the staff report as an exhibit. There are those are the developed land uses around the site, but other than that area, there's approximately 500 acres of preserved land surrounding the site within a half-mile radius of the project site. The project site and the area is in the 5-acre residence zoning district. There are 7 parcels in the study area that are developed with, in accordance with the residential roadfront exemption list provision in the Pine Barrens Act. The applicant proposes a private well for water supply to serve the property, and the project, as mentioned, is the subdivision project is a type 1 action pursuant to 617.4E10. It's an unlisted action that exceeds 25% of any threshold in that section and substantially contiguous to publicly owned parkland and designated open space. The 12-lot subdivision with the 13th lot as open space meets the 25% threshold in 617.4B5(2) regarding 50 units not connected to public water and sewer systems. The town code also has its own type 1 list, and it appears to meet that as well, since it is in 2 officially designated critical environmental areas, the Central Suffolk Pine Barrens and the Central Suffolk Special Groundwater Protection Area. The alternative proposal to develop a single-family residence is a type 2 action pursuant to SECRA, but it also requires a core preservation area hardship. It is not on the parcel is not on the roadfront exemption list. And as far as permits, the project would need DEC permits, Health Department approval, Town of Brookhaven permits, including tree clearing, stormwater, wetlands, subdivision, and building permits. The project does not appear to provide information on conformance with the Long Island Workforce Housing Act that may require at least one more lot or payment in lieu of or a reduction in yield to avoid conformance with that act. And in 2019, the applicant applied for a letter of interpretation for Pine Barrens credits, and again, the total number of credits yielded by the property is approximately 9.45 credits, not including the overlap portion. There are prior decisions on similar matters in the Commission's record, including 2 approvals of core hardships for subdivisions approximately of this size in 1994 and 1995. And one core hardship, another application was withdrawn, and another one was disapproved in 1994. There are seeker documents in the package that were on the regular meeting agenda that haven't been addressed yet. And I wanted to point out that there was a written comment submitted to the commission on this application. And I apologize, I got back to the person who requested or submitted comments. Marisa was her name. She was a resident in the adjacent subdivision, and I'm not sure if she is present today to speak, but we did get a comment from her that she was opposed to the project.
We also have the applicant, huh?
No, I'm sorry.
The applicant, isn't the applicant?
Yeah, and just to complete my staff report, there are items at the end of the staff report, including the seeker determination and reviewing the applicant's responses to the hardship criteria and conformance with the workforce housing requirements. And again, the applicant is present to make a presentation. Do you have any questions so far?
Thanks, Julie. John, you're just going to continue to move things along? We go to the...
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yes. So next it would be the applicant. So Joseph Gaza.
Yes. May I start? Yep. My name is Joseph Frederick Gaza. I reside at 5 Ogden Lane in Quogue. I'm the owner of the property that's before you today. It's approximately 70 acres. I appreciate the opportunity to address the commission. Wish I could have done it in person, but maybe that'll happen in the future. I'd like to thank John Pavlicek and Ms. Hargraves for doing an excellent job telling my whole case. You don't leave me very much to say, but I can give you a little background on my acquisition, why I bought it, and just take a few moments and just to give you a little heads up. The property, as was stated, is 70 acres, and it's cut in half by the expressway between exit 70 and 71. It's all wooded lands all around it, mostly owned by either the state or the county, and there is just a little development to the west side called the Doe Run development, and then a little development to the north, but everything else in this whole area is all municipally preserved lands. This is a map that shows the dark shaded land is all either county or state, but there's even more parcels now. And the two little pink parcels, those are the combined 70 acres of land. There's 33.5 acres on the north of the expressway and 36.5 acres south of the expressway. I bought this land about 1.5 years ago from a Ms. Hendricks, and I located the land because Ms. Hendricks stopped paying real estate taxes on the land, which is a sort of a sign for a real estate guy like myself that when you see something along those lines. I reached out and talked to her attorneys, and I found out that Hendricks owned this land since 1953. She owned the land for 67 years. She was holding it as a long-term investment, a family, but never found a buyer. And the last 27 years, that's how long the Pine Barrens Act has been in place, she had hardly any inquiry from potential purchasers. She continued to hold on. She continued to pay the exorbitant real estate taxes. This year alone is about $27,000 a year. And it drained Ms. Hendricks. It drained her financially. It ruined the latter part of her life. And I come along and I bought it from her. A little over $400,000 I have invested in this property. I don't think that she even recouped all the taxes that she spent in the 67 years that government taxed her on this property. But I looked at it as a challenging property. I knew that it was potential for acquisition by a municipality, maybe the county, maybe the state. I'm a dealer in Pine Barren and town of Southampton development rights and credits. 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I thought the credit market was going to go up, but apparently the credit market is floundering right now. Also, the credit market in the town of Brookhaven, I'm now competing with the with the Pine Barrens Commission, because the commission itself is now selling credits. And you've had 2 auctions when you're establishing threshold prices, which is changing the whole market on the credit business. And I can't compete with government. I learned that a long time ago. Government has the upper hand when it comes to any development project, any cell phone towers, or selling land or selling credits. I can't compete with government. And now under the credit program, I'm competing with government. So I thought that maybe some agency would step up and buy my property. I have appealed, as was told earlier by Ms. Hargraves. No one has the money right now. It's unfortunate, but politicians have spent the money on other things that should have been allocated for acquisition of these important properties. And I recognize that it's important property for acquisition, but that's out of my reach. And with no money available I wrote to every agency, I called every agency. I'm pushed into the corner, so to speak. And that's why I'm appearing before this commission and going through this extraordinary hardship application. I don't know what else to do at this point. If government is not going to purchase my property, I have to have some use for this property. You can say that I have the Pine Barren credit use. I could get the credits, but I have a whole pile of credits already. I mean, I have 14 Pine Barren credits. Some of them go back 10 years. Okay? I have 16 town of Southampton credits. Some of those go back 15 years. There's not a big market for credits. I'm an investor, and I took a chance on the credits, but it's not working out that well. I think the best thing that could happen to me is if I was given just some small use for my property. I know that asking for a 12-lot subdivision is a lot. I recognize that. I recognize that when I met with the commission about publishing this hearing. When the application was declared a type 1 action. I know what type 1 action means. I mean, that means a significant impact. It means an impact statement. It's a trap for a developer, an investor, to get out of a type 1. It's not easy, and I don't know if I'd even be successful no matter how hard I tried. I'd be up against all the people who don't want to see this developed. And, what can I do? They have all the cards. So I stepped back and I said, even though the development is something that would be permitted under Brookhaven zoning, and I said, I'll cluster it. I'll bring all the lots up close to the road. And I'll protect the area along the sides of the expressway. I'll allow the land to my land to be connected to the town, the county land to the west and the state land to the east to bring a connection about. I thought I would do all the right things that a cluster is supposed to do. But reading the reports, nobody even likes the cluster. So my engineer, I spent $2,800 drawing up the cluster map. That I might as well open the window and throw the money out the window, because I don't think that it's going to be palatable for your commissioners to say yes to a cluster map. And the type 1 classifying it is a death knell to that type of an application. So I stepped back and I said, what can I possibly do to get just a little reward from my $405,000 in the year and a half of my life that I spent on this land? It's beautiful land. It's all wooded. It's the wetlands are on the subdivision next door. I don't think there's any wetlands on this property. My surveyor said there was no wetlands on the property. They don't show on my survey maps. But I need something. I need a little bit of use. If there's not going to be money to buy it, you got to give me something. And I felt that if I asked for one single family dwelling, and the idea came to me because I received information from the Long Island Horse Farm Association, the realtors, and they promote real estate for people who have horses, who want a residence with a little corral and the ability to ride their horses around. And I'm in communication with a woman in West Hampton, Janice, and Janice has been working with me, and she said, I think I could find you a buyer for your property if you could have a house with a barn and a ring where they could ride the horses. And she said, we could do this on just a couple acres of property. And she said, I think I could find you a buyer so I could recoup my investment. And I've been working with the horse people, and we've come up with a plan. Of course, we know that this was the 12-lot cluster plan, which I know no one likes, okay? So we came up with an alternate plan. I don't know if Julie presented this to you yet. I only gave it to her this morning because we've been working on it. But what we've done, we've taken a 5-acre lot out of the 70 acres. And I presented a house, I don't know if you can see this or not, but it's just cutting out 5 acres from the 70, putting a horse barn, a corral, and a home. And I did 2 different layouts. And if you can see, they front up on the Mill Road, and they're right next to the development next door. So I'm pushing all the development of the 70 acres up to the northwesterly 5-acre corner. And if I could just get that, I could get something from this land. And unless government's going to come up with some money, I have to have something. Now, I've been struggling with the assessors in the town of Brookhaven. I asked for tax relief on the property. I said $27,000 a year, every year is absurd. They said, file a grievance, do a petition. Filed the grievance, did my petition, got the decision, no change. I went back, I argued with them orally, like you can't see them anymore. They said, we are valuing the property as 5-acre residential zone property. I said, it's in the Pine Barrens core. I said, I can't develop it. They says, well, we don't know that. I gave them a copy of the code. I says, look, I said, the core says that has to be preserved. I says, that's supposed to be for aquifer protection. The land's supposed to remain in its natural state. I can't cut down one tree. If I cut down one tree, it's considered development. And development is prohibited in the core. Showed him the law, showed him Article 57. He says, nope, we're not buying it. I said, what do you want me to do? He says, bring us something from the Pine Barrens that you can't use your property. Bring us a letter. Bring us something. I reached out first to John Malazzo, your counsel. He says, I don't think that the commission is going to give you anything, but he says, that's just my opinion. He says, I'm certainly not giving you anything. I don't know if the commission is going to give me anything. I don't know if the commission would even consider giving me anything. It was so sad for me to see Mrs. Hendricks, who had to pay all these taxes a whole life for Pine Barrens Corps, and nobody stepped up to help her. She had 2 attorneys. They didn't understand the Pine Barrens, the rules, the regulations, the Manhattan. The taxation just drained all the money from this woman. How can the town and the Pine Barrens Commission and the state, you know this is core land, how can you tax it as buildable residential lots or acreage? It was whatever the zoning was, something 5. It's just unconscionable. And now I'm in the same position as Hendricks. I paid the $27,000 this year. So I'm in the Hendricks trap. I own land that's in the core. I can't use it. I can't develop it. I'm appearing before you as an extraordinary hardship. The test for the extraordinary hardship, can I prove to you that there's no other use? Your regulations show that. It says no use. Your regulations say no disruption of the vegetation. How can you do something with land if you can't cut down 1 tree? I mean, you can preserve it for drinking water, but that's not a use for me. That's a use for the public. And a use for the public has to be compensated by the public. And that's not happening. And I'm in a tight spot. I'm backed into the corner. I'm stuck with the taxes. I own the land. And I'm appealing for some use. That's basically my presentation. I hope that we can come to some type of an agreement that I can use something, so I don't fall into the Hendricks trap and I spend 60. So I can't spend 67 years of my life because I'm already 70 years old. But how long should this continue? How long should the Pine Barrens Commission allow taxation with no use and no acquisition? Is 27 years enough time for Mrs. Hendricks? And how many years for Joe Gaza? It's just, it has to stop. Thank you for your time this afternoon. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them as best I can.
I have some questions.
Certainly, Mr. Romaine.
Did you file a small claims assessment review petition when your assessment?
I did.
You did. Who hears those cases? Not the assessor.
Not the assessor. No, there's a board.
No. Wrong again.
Okay.
Who hears small claims assessment review petition?
I filed the grievance petition.
Right. And once you file a grievance and it's denied, then you can file a small claims review petition.
All right. I did not do that.
Okay. So look, that is common knowledge.
Well, my discussion.
Do you know where they're filed, sir?
I imagine with the county clerk.
Thank you. Do you know what I did for 16 years?
Reviewed petitions.
No, I was the county clerk.
That was just a guess.
Right. Okay. So you failed to follow through the procedure that so many people follow through. I mean, tens of thousands of people every year file small claims review petitions. Do you know the chances of success of a small claims review petition?
I do not.
Almost 80% plus get the reduction they're asking for, at least some reduction. So you failed to do that.
Okay.
About the politicians spending money, that they're out of money. We're voting to purchase your land tomorrow. We're in a deal with the county. We're coming up with our money tomorrow night at our town board meeting. Did you know that, sir?
I did not know that.
My strong suggestion is that you speak to our county attorney. You paid $400,000 for this. I happen to know, and I'm not discuss with you, that's the county, because the county is the major partner, that you will be considerably made more than whole. So I'll just point out those facts to you. However, if you want to proceed, I'm happy to let you proceed and file a sequel that's so necessary for this process.
The application for a single-family dwelling would be a type 2, and the necessity for the secret review would be much less. In the event that the purchase does not materialize, then I have been waiting for over a year for a purchase to materialize and hasn't happened. No one has made me a written offer. Might I continue with that application, Mr. Romaine?
So, hi Joe, it's John Malazzo. How are you? First, I want to know how you have 3 hands when you're holding up the documents for the record. Is your application been revised? Hi Blair, congratulations. Has your application been revised? Are you seeking only 1 house, or are you still seeking the 12?
No. I asked for 12, and in the alternative, a single family dwelling with a barn for a horse family as an alternative if the commissioners found that there was no chance at all for the 12-lot division.
Okay, so Joe, under seeker, that sounds as an alternative. So the POS deck, it would be granted or issued on the 12-lot subdivision. One of the things under the POS deck we could consider as an alternative would be a single-family house.
Okay, that's fine.
If you want to withdraw your application vis-a-vis the 12, then you could argue about your type 2. But right now, before the commission is a 12-lot subdivision with an alternative of 1 lot. So the seeker, which is proposed and suggested by staff as being a POS deck, would stay, and there hasn't been action on that yet. Just to clarify that with the supervisor. So it's still a 12-lot subdivision. That's still a type 1 action. We have the research on why it's a type 1 action. So if you're going to maintain that 12-lot application, it's a type 1 list. It would be probably, I think the recommendation is for a POS deck. The commission would do that at the end of the hearing. We have some questions with respect to the hardship. Under the law, the statute requires a certain showing, and Grace is going to go through those now. And so if you could just answer these questions, which you know.
Yes.
Julie, go ahead. Sorry.
So you already addressed about the beneficial use of the land. But if you could just go for the record, the 3 elements underneath that. So that's 57021, section 10A.
Right.
And it's 1, 2, and 3 under that.
Okay.
So do not apply to or affect other property in the immediate vicinity.
I'm looking at the 12110A. It says subject property does not have any beneficial use except for watershed protection. Is there a dispute about that, or what else is the use?
But Joe, you have to show the standards, right? So the test under the laws, you have to show it under those 3 elements, which Grace just read to you.
So
Okay.
what? Yes,
Well,
section 1.
I expressed that if development constitutes removing even 1 tree, very difficult to develop a piece of property if you can't remove any vegetation. Therefore, its use is for watershed protection, and there's no development under the core rules allowed. That would be the first one. The second one is that all property in the immediate vicinity is either developed with homes or in public ownership for preservation. Julie Hargraves stated that in her report. She said that it's all municipally owned, county and state, on all around the property, with the exception of the 2 little developments, the Doe Run to the west and then the Primrose Path to the north. All the other vacant lands are gone. They're municipally owned or they're built on. So I'm an isolated piece of property that should be acquired by government, or it should be able to be used for something. Number I did not cause the Pine Barrens Corps to be take this parcel into it. I had nothing to do with that. I've only owned the land a year and a half. Okay, it's a single and separate parcel. I didn't own any contiguous property. I didn't own anything. I don't know anything else in Brookhaven. This is just an isolated tract, 70 acres that I purchased. It's a single and separate parcel. I have no idea of what use, if municipal acquisition does not occur other than a single family dwelling, since the division is going to be withdrawn for 12 lots, because I know that is a type 1, and I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to do an impact statement. I'm not going to be able to prove to the satisfaction of the environmental people that I'm going to overcome their hurdles on a positive deck with this type of development.
Can I ask a question?
I'm sorry, Supervisor, just, Mr. Gaz, the third element. Without any action or no action of the applicant, including transfer, so any action on your behalf that created this hardship?
Well, my action was in purchasing the property and in attempting to sell the property to government agencies. What action? I didn't develop it. I haven't cut down a tree. I've only, paid for surveys and drawings and applications and advertising. And pay the taxes. That's all I've done.
Mr. Gaza, can I ask a question?
Certainly.
How much did you pay per acre when you purchased this property?
Well, I'll tell you 1 second. Yeah, well, we have 11 acres has bad title on the south end, so we're going to call it 59 acres.
Can you sell that 11 acres if it has bad title?
No, I can't sell it. No one will buy a property with a bad title. I have offered it to the county for free.
You did.
You did? Why don't you make that offer to the town? I'll be happy to look into that for you, if you're interested.
Okay. Supervisor, remember the town is going to consider a resolution tomorrow to make an offer. So you may want to recuse yourself, as may the county, given the pendency of an offer that we're hearing may come out.
May come out. Thank you. And from this point, I'm going to leave this meeting until this hearing is over, because I believe that we may be working, with our partner, the county, on this parcel, and I don't want to say anything further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Let that stand as my recusal for the rest of this public hearing. Thank you. I'll come back when you're finished.
We'll bring the supervisor back in. So in considering this application, the commission does not weigh, debate, or consider the potential of a county or a town acquisition. It's judged on its merits. So Mr. Gaz, again, I'll ask a question. Are you revising your application to be just one lot, or is it 12 still? I'm hung up on that. I just need to know.
I'm revising it to seek one 5-acre lot conforming to Brookhaven zoning.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Supervisor Schneiderman had a question.
All right, so I guess my first question will piggyback on that, Joe. So I'm assuming then you're going to retain a certain amount of Pine Barrens credits for the remainder of the property, since you're just going for the one horse farm, and then there'd be some balance of Pine Barrens credits, correct?
That's correct, Supervisor.
So your whole argument for a hardship, this is kind of unusual for this commission, is that you cannot get value out of the Pine Barrens credits, right? It seemed like you prefer to just sell the property to a municipal entity, be it the town or county or state or whoever it might be. But there are no purchasers, and you're saying there's somewhat of a collapse in the Pine Barrens credit market where you're not able to sell those credits out on the open market, correct?
Somewhat. Let's start with the Pine Barrens Commission marketing their own credits. I believe that you have 10 or 20 credits that you have been conducting an auction on over the last year on 2 occasions. Is that correct? Is there someone from the Pine Barrens that can confirm that?
I will provide that answer for the record. I don't believe that is true, though.
Was there an auction of Pine Barren credits conducted by the Pine Barrens Commission?
The clearinghouse owns 10.19 credits in Brookhaven. They have not offered those for sale in the last year, to my knowledge. But again, that's Jerry Taberti will get us that answer, and we'll add it to the record.
Okay. Well, I believe that there was an auction and no bidders.
So it's sort of an unusual argument that the Pine Barrens credits are not sellable, not that
sellable.
Not that sellable. So what can you sell a Pine Barrens credit for these days? Because that's a kind of a critical component of the original Central Pine Barrens law, is the value was based on these credits. And I thought, and Joe Milazzo, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I thought there was some affirmative obligation of the state or from municipalities to acquire these credits.
First off, it's John. And then with respect to affirmative obligations, the clearinghouse has a blanket offer to buy credits, which is much lower than, as a base. That sort of as the Fed, to use Andy Freeling's words. So they have not been seeking to purchase credits in Brookhaven recently. Mr. Gaza bought this property knowing that it was in the core, knowing what its uses were. So I would suggest that we focus the hearing on his presentation of the elements of his hardship.
So John, there is no automatic purchase of credits? Should a seller say, I want out? That doesn't exist?
The clearinghouse has an offer to buy credits at values that are lower than what the market transactions are. We can supplement the record with the most recent transactions in Brookhaven. They are in the order of $80,000 or more. Mr. Gaza would get 13 or so Pine Barren credits at $80,000. Someone that's smarter than me can do that math. It's more than what he paid for. It's orders of magnitude greater than what he paid for the property. What he's purporting to represent is he hasn't found a buyer, but that may be he hasn't found a buyer at his price. Yeah, and I know Joe buys and sells credits all the time. He may be asking too much, or it may not be, I don't know why the market's.
You understand, for us commissioners, in terms of determining hardship, this is the central argument here, is the hardship is the inability to sell credit. So to get some testimony as to the value of these credits, it sounds like they are worth in excess of what Mr. Gaza paid. I'm not seeing the hardship. So Joe, I'm going to need some more clarification there. It also sounded from the supervisor of Brookhaven that you have a willing municipal buyer. In which case I would say, let's not even go back and forth. Let's not continue to argue this. Let's just adjourn it. Pending the outcome of a municipal acquisition. If that goes nowhere, then we can go back and make the argument. But we heard testimony, whether we should have or shouldn't have, that there is a pending offer coming your way.
I agree 100%, Mr. Supervisor. I would welcome a pending offer. I would also welcome an offer from the Pine Barrens Commission. At $80,000, I'm prepared to sell the credits now. So if Mr. Milazzo has a checkbook there and someone from the Pine Barrens wants to sign it, I'm coming right over with the application. I'll sign it up.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that that's what Mr. Milazzo was saying, right? So, John, do you want to clarify?
Joe knows that wasn't we're going on the recent transactions, Joe.
Yeah, there are some transactions, Mr. Supervisor, as we both know, and some have been town credits that are far greater than $80,000. But what has to be explained is that if I sell a credit, let's say I sell a credit for 100,000, okay? And I have sold a credit, a town credit for 100,000. The buyer does not want to buy a piece of paper, a credit. They don't want that. What the buyer wants is his project to be approved, and the credit is necessary to get the project approved. So the buyer comes to me and says, Joe, I have a project and I need to get approval from the health department or from the town. He says, I understand that if I use credits, I can get that approval. And I said, yes, that's true. He says, well, you get me the approval and I'll buy the credit from you. Okay? Then I spend 6 months, a year and a half going through processes with applications, with Dave Wilcox, for clearing use, for different uses, hearings, paying fees, surveys, to fight to get the person to be able to get what he wants to use with the credit. So what people don't understand, that I'm spending a year of my life as an attorney fighting for somebody to sell one of these credits so I can make a sale. People are not just coming to the door and knocking on my door and say, Joe, here's $80,000. Can you give me the credit? Doesn't happen that way.
Right.
That's
they
why
want the application. They don't want the piece of paper. They want the application of the credit.
they want their application approved.
I understand.
That's what they want, and that the credit can get them there sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
And I
if they don't
understand. There's
hire me, they got to hire another attorney to do it.
There's also quite a distinction between the town credits, even Pine Barrens credits, from town to town and their applicability, you know, depending upon school districts or hydrological zones or all kinds of issues of what can transfer where. It's a complicated business. So, you know, I don't know the value, obviously, of the credits that you have in the town of Brookhaven in that particular area, but I'm sure that that could be established by the Pine Barrens Commission. But, you know, it seems that rather than going through that exercise, though it might be the best outcome for you economically, I think we ought to, what's prudent is to wait and then see what happens with the town of Brookhaven. It sounds like you need to amend your request to drop down, if you're going to stay with the Pine Barrens Commission, is to drop down to a single family home so that your secret is type 2. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a long time on your environmental impact statement and study. So you'd have to make that change too. But I think you know, to enter good faith negotiations with the town is the best short-term plan for you.
We're in agreement. No argument, Mr. Supervisor.
Okay.
No argument.
Move on.
So, yeah, John, do we have to entertain it's a public hearing, right? We have to continue with allowing other members of the public, right, to weigh in here?
Yes.
Well, I have a question before we start going to the public, if it's okay. And that is really an answer that was sought about 20 minutes ago, Mr. Gaza. You expressed that the 70 acres had 11 acres that had bad title to it, but you were going to provide a per acre breakdown of the remaining 59 in terms of what it cost you per acre. Do you have that number for us?
I think it was 6,100.
$6,830.51.
Okay, thank you.
Plus a year and a half of my time as an attorney.
Oh, that's like $1,000 an hour, right?
Well, no, $450 an hour.
Okay.
You're dating yourself.
You know why? Because nobody else will date me.
A lot of time goes into my work, and I've only bought maybe three or four pieces in a year, the last year of my life. This is one of them. So when I devote my life towards pursuing these real estate adventures, and not all of them work out. So it's other attorneys that do litigation, they make all kinds of money. This is what I do. This is my specialty. I track people down. I follow delinquent taxes. I follow people who have not been able to use their property, who have given up, who their attorneys have given up, and I take the risk. I part with the $405,000 of my money. I roll the dice, and there's a risk involved. And that's something that a lot of people can talk about, but unless you experience that yourself, it's hard to understand it. And the $26,000 a year taxes, that hits home right around Christmas time when those bills come in.
You know, the problem with that argument, on one hand, Joe, I could say this is a self-imposed hardship, that you knew what you were getting into, you were taking a risk. But I have always thought that Pine Barrens credits, there was a backstop on the valuation, that they couldn't go to zero, that they had to have a certain amount of value, that either, you know, some entity would step in. I get concerned if these credits don't have value. I was a little bit concerned when the county was changing some of the, you know, the regulations that might devalue these credits from the health department's perspective. So I think it's important that these credits retain value. I don't want to say anything more on the record about that, but, you know, so you're making an argument that almost goes against you by, you know, saying you took a gamble, you took a real estate gamble. It shouldn't have been that speculative, because the Pine Barrens credits ought to have value. They fluctuate, but there should be value there.
I agree with you. There's got to be value, but the exact value and the work that has to go into making them valuable, that's the key factor here. And I never knew that the Pine Barrens Commission itself would buy credits from me. I never knew that. No one ever told me that. I mean, I've been arguing for a year with the commission over this case. No one ever stepped up and said, hey, Joe, we'll write you a check for the credits. I never knew that. I knew they were trying to sell credits, but I didn't know they were buying them.
Right. So I think, you know, unless other commission members have other questions, that we get to the public, and then I would say we adjourn, pending good faith negotiations with the town of Brookhaven. Hopefully that'll make this matter moot. But that's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Hey, I agree with you.
Where is
anyone on public or?
Yes, Dick Amper.
Karen?
Well, there's one public comment from Richard Amper. John, you can read it in.
I thought he was going to speak.
Dick, you here?
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can swear him in, please.
Well, it's clearly a self-created hardship, an admitted hardship. He says he rolled the dice. This is a guy who's a wheeler dealer in real estate for years, and a year and a half ago, he went and bought property that he knew couldn't be developed, and now he's coming to you to pitch a bitch about it. Now, if we're lucky, if somebody wants to buy it, that's just good luck. But it's not the responsibility of you people who are trying to protect the environment. He knew this land was not developable, bought it anyway, and now he's complaining because he can't get rid of it. That's not our business. I'm very much in favor of protection, but I'm not prepared to support somebody who takes a absolutely incredible risk, admits that that's what he does for a living, and then expects the people in this commission to come and make him whole. That's not the way it's worked before, and we shouldn't make it work that way now.
Thank you, Rich, for your comment.
Are there any other public comments?
Anybody else who wishes to make any public comments? Raise your hand. We have the raise their hand in the chat room. Anybody else going once? Oh, Salvatore Ciampo.
I had just asked what the backstopped government dollar value for credits were, because we in the Scouts have been selling these credits for a good long period of time, and we're not aware that we can get rid of them to the government. We'd be inclined to think about doing that, but can anyone tell me that dollar value? I've asked it in the chat, didn't get a response, asked it a second time, didn't get a response. So now I'm asking it for the record.
The Central Pine Barrens Credit Clearinghouse made an offer and has an outstanding offer to purchase credits. We will get the numbers and we'll supplement them to the record. I don't know them off the top of my head. They're based on 1995 valuation. It was done early in the program, so we'll get that information.
Can we request it be sent to either Chris Kasher or myself? I mean, putting it in the record won't get that information to us, right?
It will get it out to you. No problem. No, that's fine.
Any other public comment?
If there's no other person who would like to speak, I just want to add again that the commission did receive an email from a woman named Marissa Barisi, who said, "We've recently been informed by neighbors that there are plans to build a development behind our home at 15 Doe Run in Manorville. Myself and my husband and the rest of the residents of Doe Run are opposed to the building of this development and would like to be heard." I sent her the application. I'm not sure if she would like to still comment, so if the commission is going to have an open written comment period, that may be helpful for a few days to allow people who maybe weren't aware of this hearing, or, I mean, I did inform her there was a hearing today, but allow people to submit written comments maybe for 5 days until next Wednesday, if you wish. And then the deadline is early November, so really unless you had a special meeting, the deadline would be due at the next meeting, October 21st.
I would like to just leave it all open, just adjourn it entirely to the October 21st meeting.
Okay.
With the hope that there's a resolution to this matter by then between the town, county, and Mr. Gaza.
Mr. Gaza, are you willing to give the commission any kind of extension, or are you?
Yes, but not until October 21st. I have to be in Florida to vote. How about November?
You'd have to give us the extension on the decision as well.
Yeah, to the November meeting. The November meeting is
18th.
November 18th would be good.
November 18th?
Yes, Wednesday, November 18th. So, Mr. Gaz, you're granting an extension of time for the decision to the Commission's November 18th meeting?
That's correct, Mr. Krapchek.
Okay, thank you.
And the public comment period open until
I leave it entirely open so that we can get public comment on the 18th of November as well.
Procedurally, are we muted? No. All right, so procedurally, you may want to have your public comment period to the next commission meeting, October, and then you could close we're not going to have another hearing. This would just be the record portion. And then after that, you'd be able to consider all of the comments received by October at your November meeting, which is the decision deadline. Otherwise, you find yourself receiving comment the day of your decision, which is always a problematic situation.
Makes sense.
Right, Mr. Gaza won't be here for the October hearing.
Yeah, so
There's another question from Salvatore.
Yes, I just wonder if we could get a definitive answer. I don't think I heard it. If the Pine Barren Commissions was selling credits in competition with those who are holding credits. I have never heard that, but we didn't get a definite no or yes on that, I don't think.
the commission is not actively selling credits in Riverhead as of today. The commission is not actively selling credits in Southampton today. The commission is not. I do not believe the commission is actively selling credits in Brookhaven. We will confirm the Brookhaven piece.
Yeah, I apologize. Let me clarify the question. Is not currently and never has been, or have they been at any given time?
This is a public hearing, so you can put that on the record. The commission is not actively selling them today.
How would
Right,
it,
but the question is, have they ever been
Well,
selling?
the public hearing, so if you want to put that on the record, your question's noted for the record. They're not actively selling them. I don't know if we sold them in Riverhead. I have to go. It's 25 years. They're not selling them in Riverhead. They don't own any Riverhead credits. They don't own any Southampton credits. The commission only owns 10 credits in Brookhaven. Jerry Taverdi can confirm all of those understandings, and we'll get it in the record for the record.
Thank you. That's sort of what I thought, but I wanted to get it more clear. Thank you very much.
And again, we'll make sure that's right. So it's subject to verification and confirmation. So with respect to the hearing, I recommend that you close the public hearing portion. You keep the record open until October, and then you'd have your decision in November. Is that okay?
Fine.
I'm not sure about that because it sounds like Mr. Gaza's about to change it and make it a single family home as his application and not a 12-lot subdivision. And that's it seems to be a material change. And I just think that we ought to allow public comment besides just written comment on that. But
fair enough. If that's the will of the commission, then your decision deadline should be in December. You just shouldn't have your decision deadline align with the day of your closing of the hearing. That's all.
again, I'm hoping this is all moot very quickly if Brookhaven Town and Mr. Gaza come to terms. So, but Joe, are you okay with giving a decision deadline, in December?
November would be better for me. I'm going to be in, on Long Island. I have to pay tax, I'm going to get another tax bill coming up too. It's just another $27,000. I'm trying to resolve this.
oh, you're gonna make out well.
The commission needs to have another hearing or have the hearing continued to only if Mr. Gaza formally withdraws his 12-lot subdivision, proceeds with only the development of one lot, which requires a core hardship. Does the commission wish to have another hearing in October or November to hear just that development proposal and then have a decision at a date after that?
I've withdrawn the 12 lot and I'm on the single family home with the horses. That's my application.
Then let's just leave the record open, the written record open for a month, and then we can make a decision. Hopefully it gets resolved in that month.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that seem okay?
That's perfectly appropriate. And again, I will remind the commission's debating and determining whether Mr. Gaza has established a hardship on his application and is not considering whether the town, county, or any other government agency is interested in acquiring his property. That's outside of the purview of your consideration, and it's not going to the merits of his application. His application either has demonstrated a hardship exists based on what he's told us today, or it hasn't. And the determination or the whether he sells or not doesn't matter. So I just want that to be that will be the criteria the commission staff uses in reviewing and determining whether hardship exists, subject to the new comments that may come in the next month.
I think we also just need to add 3 exhibits. So it'd be K, L, and M would be the report from the town of Brookhaven dated September 14th that provides comments on the application and does indicate the potential acquisition and that they would prefer, if anything goes through, would be the one lot development. The Gaza letter dated September 15th, 2020 received on September 15th is 14 pages. And that was received yesterday with a cover letter and some supporting materials. And then material that was received today from Mr. Gaza, a letter dated also September 15th, though, and that was received today, and that's 5 pages. And that was forwarded to the commission today, and that has the potential one lot development for, single-family residents. So, that's all.
Thank you. So I was
Okay.
making a motion to, I guess, close the oral testimony and leave the written record open for a month, something like that.
I second.
So close the public hearing and leave the written record open for a month?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So the voting,
On the amended application that involves just a single family dwelling horse lot, horse farm.
and the voting members, so we have 2 recusals. We have the county recuse themselves and the town of Brookhaven. So the 3 members that can vote are Riverhead, Southampton, and the state.
Mhm.
So is there we have a motion from Jay Schneiderman. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Seconds. All in favor? Carrie, do you say yes?
My hand is raised. Yep.
Yep. Any opposite? Any noes? Any abstentions? 2, this county and the town of Brookhaven. So the
Right.
resolution passes 302. This hearing is closed. Thank you, Madam Stenographer. And we will now close the public hearing portion of our meeting. And John, the agenda is back to you.
Yeah, so we're up to the compatible growth area, right? Agenda item 3E, Island Water Park Site Plan Amendment Application, Town of Riverhead Secret Lead Agency. Okay.
Correct.
I want to make sure you
So-
don't need me anymore, right?
Domenica? Oh, yeah, no, you're good.
Okay, thank you.
It's just coordinated review on Island Water Park.
Yes,
So we're-
item 3E, there's a draft letter in the package for your consideration in response to the town of Riverhead's referral of the lead agency coordination for the Island Water Park site plan amendment.
Coordination.
If folks could remember to mute when they're not, if folks could mute their lines, please, so we can hear Julie, thanks.
The letter defers, thank you, defers lead agency to the town and reserves the right for the commission to comment on the proposed amendment. You may remember the commission approved a hardship for this project or the Island Water Park back in 2011, and an amendment occurred in 2013, and it looks like an amendment is occurring again. So at some point, the commission may need to review and amend or reopen the hearing. It depends on the significance of the changes to this amendment. But again, this is just to defer lead agency to the town for now. So we need a vote on that, on sending the letter, I think.
Yes.
Is
there a motion? Is there a motion on the Island Water Park letter to send the letter?
So moved.
Okay, Supervisor Schneiderman, motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I second.
Okay, Town of Riverhead Supervisor seconds.
John, it's Carrie. Yeah, I just want to comment that, not for the purpose of today's vote, but Dan, I definitely need to talk to you guys about what's going on with this site, because I think there's confusion from DEC's perspective. And so not relevant to the commission vote today on secret lead agency, but from what's happening at the site itself, DC is very confused. So, and we clearly have a lot of jurisdiction at the site. Thanks.
Okay.
Tomorrow, we'll speak with Jeff as well. We'll set something up.
Okay.
Did everybody vote?
I don't know if you acknowledged it.
I don't think the vote
There's a
was
motion
called.
and a second.
Vote for it.
Okay, so, yeah, and I know you can't see my hand. My hand is raised.
Somebody say all in
All
favor?
in favor?
All right,
There you go.
I do.
Okay, it looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Nassau County Boy Scouts.
Right, and this is basically what we had discussed last time, and now it's just to make it official?
That's correct, to approve
Okay.
the addition with conditions that the survey and the easement are amended. We'll need to send this to the applicant, the resolution, and but it is to approve the no net increase in square footage, but approve the addition on the existing cabin and subtract that additional square footage, subtract that square footage from one of the future cabins. Is there a vote on this?
We need a motion. Is Riverhead going to make the motion?
Yes, Ed, Riverhead will make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, or any comments on the motion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, my hand is raised. Any opposition or abstentions? Nope, okay. Moving right along. Julie, you again, I guess.
The next item, is it the Gaza item?
Yeah.
Right.
So the seeker documents, is this moot now that he's withdrawn the type 1 action? Or,
Yeah, that's the question, right?
there were seeker documents, including a draft resolution to adopt a positive declaration, and the supporting material, the environmental assessment form part 2, the part 3, and an attachment, and again, a draft resolution to adopt the positive declaration. And so
I'll move the draft resolution.
Well, first off, it's Gaza, so you recused yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
The second, now, it's
That resolution is no longer applicable.
yeah, it's a type 2 action because he revised it to a single-family house.
Okay.
So there's no motion needed on seeker. So the application just gets considered on its merits, but the hearing record is open until October, so there's no further action needed. Am I right on that, Julie?
Yes.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. Next.
It's proposed improvements to County Road 21.
Okay.
Right, this was a last minute addition.
That's right. There's a draft letter for your consideration to address this referral from the County Council on Environmental Quality, and it indicates that proposal for drainage improvements to improve flooding conditions at the intersection of Longwood Road and County Road 21, in the area of Cathedral Pines, is non-development since it improves it's environmental restoration pursuant to the act, and it is a public improvement undertaken for the health, safety, and welfare, including but not limited to maintenance of an existing road.
Do we have a draft letter?
Yes,
I move we send the draft letter.
thank you.
Okay, so is there a second for Ed's motion?
Just on the motion, so they're not widening the pavement or adding new curb cuts or anything like that? This is just simply resurfacing and striping?
There is some disturbance, a little less than an acre of disturbance in the right-of-way to install drainage structures and improve conditions that in that area that would improve drainage to the headwaters of the Carmen's River. So it would result in improved water quality and stormwater runoff. But there is some disturbance in the right-of-way, which is vegetated, but it's not really a widening. It's to improve drainage conditions, essentially.
Or any of the drainage structures which they're changing, will any of them alter the movement of water in terms of wildlife in that area? I'm not that familiar with it, but it looks like they're adding riprap and things like that. Has that been analyzed to make sure you're not impeding fish in the area or anything else from migrating?
it's all terrestrial improvements, right? They're all land.
Yeah, there's nothing in the water course itself. The county, what it's proposed is in the, as Julie indicated, in the upland portion of the right-of-way, that these improvements would aid not only in addressing and ameliorating existing flooding, because they're going to be raising the road elevation, but also reducing, actually treating the stormwater runoff that the first flush before it reaches the actual surface water in the river itself.
And we're being asked to just determine that it's not developed.
Well,
correct?
The county's council on environmental quality circulated this letter, this application to us with the letter. It was being reviewed by CEQ, and they asked the commission to provide comments. And so henceforth, Julie has drafted this letter.
The project will not occur for at least a couple of years, but there's a long process for funding and Department of Public Works to obtain funding and design the project and planning it. So, and then construction in 2 years from now.
So we're being asked to approve the letter.
Yes.
I'm fine with it.
Okay, let's take a vote. Motion to approve the letter.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hands. My hand is raised. Great. Doesn't look like there's anyone opposed. I can't see Dorian at the same time. Or abstentions? Nope. Okay, so now we're back to the final public comment period. Did we receive any additional emails during the course of the meeting? Okay.
Yes, we received one additional comment. This is from Liz Jackson. Dear Chairwoman Gallagher, I have been listening to the September 16th, 2020 Zoom meeting and have the following comments to be made during closing public remarks. With respect to the Lewis Road PRD application and the recent updates made regarding deadline extension, etc., the fact that Mr. Shea is finding these inconsistencies is not shocking. It is not shocking that he is finding these issues because we, the public, as well as your professional staff, have also already made it known to the applicant that these inconsistencies existed. The applicant had every opportunity to make these changes prior to this September deadline, and they chose not to. This is a very experienced group of professionals hired as consultants on behalf of Discovery Land, who themselves as developers are very savvy in how these processes for permit approval work. And they know how this process works. They are not hearing about these concerns for the first time or the sixth time. I was formally trained by Mr. Shea while I was previously employed by the town of Southampton and was hired under him to act as an environmental technician for almost 5 years. During my time with the town of Southampton, I worked directly with individuals on projects within Central Pine Barrens and became very familiar with what is required, etc. To this end, I have personally spent many hours reviewing these applications as a concerned citizen and have also already made all of these same concerns known. The applicant has had many different opportunities to make changes during the past 9 months, and they intentionally chose not to. They have played a similar game of chicken previously during the project review before the town board, the zoning board of appeals, and the town planning board. They know what is required, they have every opportunity to modify, and they don't, until they are forced to for fear of being denied. You can see in past submissions that the changes being requested today by the town were already brought to the applicant's attention, and most of the data needed to modify the plans was already generated and in their possession. Julie Hargrave has also been reviewing these types of projects for many years. She's been very thorough in her review and very professional in her interactions with the applicant and the Pine Barrens Commission, and yet the applicant and their agents have repeatedly ignored her comments and instead submitted plans and project descriptions that were patronizing at best, repeatedly stating that they were in compliance and didn't need to make changes. They stated that everything was complete and the CPB Commission should move to approve the project. Clearly, this was not the case. Why did they not respond to Julie in the same way that they are now responding to the request made by Mr. Shea on behalf of Supervisor Schneiderman? This plan will still require additional modifications as the plans before you today, or even the plans that will be submitted in October, haven't been approved by the Town of Southampton Planning Board, and they are also likely modified in such a way that the ZBA's ruling regarding the golf course may no longer stand because they were clear that the approval was based on exactly what was presented to them at that point. The project was vague, but the applicant argued it was fine. This was it. There wouldn't be any changes. We also have yet to see where the Suffolk County Department of Health Services and/or New York State DEC have responded to their most recent submissions, whereby approval from New York State DEC or Suffolk County Health did not exist as of the close of the public hearing in August. Applications require submission fees to help offset the costs associated with review and such. This project will continue to monopolize time spent by your employees, yourselves, the general public, and the professional agencies working on behalf of the public and the environment. The same thing happened during the PDD process. This will also likely become par for the course if approved, when the town or other government agencies will try and see that agreements are upheld, development follows as approved, and in order to monitor future activity on private lots and within community-owned areas. I worry that there will not be enough manpower or financial resources to enforce and monitor subdivision should the project ever be approved. As always, thank you all for the time you have spent and continue to spend reviewing this application. Sincerely, Liz Jackson, East Quogue, New York. And that is the only other comment we have received.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have no other regular business, correct? Am I missing anything?
We need a motion to close the public portion.
Right, so we'll need a motion to, we'll need to close and go into, we need to close advisory session, but John, we don't need to come back out and vote on anything, do we?
No.
Okay. So we can do a motion to go into closed advisory session, and also afterwards there'll be no further public business, so we can adjourn, correct?
Correct.
In the motion to go to closed advisory, can you please just state the topic areas, like confidential legal advice or contracts or whatever it might be?
Yeah, John read them off in the beginning. We have legal matters and enforcement matters to discuss.
Thank you.
That's correct.
All right, I'll make the motion.
Okay, I'll second it. Everyone raise your hand if you're in favor. My hand is raised. Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, thanks everyone. We will talk again. Commission members will talk again in a few minutes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, folks.
They have the